Hello, a very warm welcome to yet another edition of The Real Talk. I hope your day is going well. Thank you for sparing time to join us. My name is Jackie Lumbasi. We are at Mythos Boutique Hotel in Kiovu. A big thank you to them for giving us a home. We are live on RTV and on our official YouTube channel. Please go there and share the link so that we have as many people as possible join today's conversation, where we will be focusing on justice and resilience in relation to Kwibuka 31. Let's get to know who our guest is, because this gentleman is the one who will help us understand this subject best. Welcome to the show. If you have just joined us, we are pleased to have you here. Use the hashtag #TheRealTalk and ask any questions that you have. Our guest today is Moïse Nkundabarashi. You know, from the first time you told me the meaning of your name, I also grasped the pronunciation system, never to get it wrong again. Yeah. For you who doesn't know who Moïse is the president of the Rwanda Bar Association. Moïse, always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for honoring our invitation.
It's a pleasure.
You know, I love that about you, and I said it off air. When you're in a position like yours and you are accessible, especially to the media, it is such a good thing. So thank you.
Leadership is about serving.
Yeah.
So you offer to be available to the people you serve.
Yes. Unfortunately, people forget that.
I mean, there's life
sometimes
after this position.
Yeah. I totally agree with you.
So being humble, being grounded.
Yes.
Allows you to do things smoothly.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you, Moïse.
Thank you.
So, you know, I was thinking this Kwibuka 31, I really needed to have you here so that we can talk about, we've talked about a lot of things in relation to Kwibuka 31, but then I thought, what can we do as far as justice is concerned? What conversation can we have? And I thought, let me just have you here and we talk about the legal fraternity. When I look back, and I did a bit of research while preparing myself. So in 1973 is when the School of Law was created. Huh?
Yes.
And then many years later, in 1997, is when the Bar Association was created.
Sure, yes.
So I wanted to hear from you. What was happening in the country between 1973 and 1997? But also, as we look at justice and reconciliation, I want us to have a reflection on why, not just justice and reconciliation, justice, reconciliation, and resilience.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, all those. As we reflect on that, I want us to have a better understanding on the operation of the legal space during that time.
Yeah.
And I want to pick your brain on why it's very important for us to remember.
Okay, so first of all, it's very true that it's in 1973 that the School of Law was created at the then National University of Rwanda. But then it took some time to have a bar association that is established under the normal standards, under normal international accepted standards, because it's only in 1997 that the Bar Association was created. But then you were asking what happened in between.
In between, yeah.
So in between, the reality is there was, at certain point, I would say, an organization that was called, an institution that was called Mandataire en Justice. This is like representatives in justice. And most of the time, this was, there were people that would only be granted the permission by the Minister of Justice to allow the people to go and represent the others in court. But the most surprising part is, even though it was done in such a way, I mean, it was not done in a proper manner. It was not done in a manner that would be of the standards that are required to be the lawyers that represent people in court.
And were these trained lawyers?
That's actually the major part. They were not even trained lawyers.
Oh, my.
And you understand that it had also such kind of challenge. A lot of challenges were involved because they were not trained lawyers. And the major part is even these very same trained lawyers were not available in the in the country. Yeah. They were very limited. But the most surprising part, since we are talking about Kwibuka 31, is even the limited people that were representing others in courts of law, 15 of them were killed during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi.
Oh my goodness. We already had a small number.
We already had a limited number. We already had a limited number of lawyers that were even working in courts and in the prosecution. But even them themselves, among them, when 15. We are talking about specifically the ones that were in the area of legal practice, 15 of them were killed. Yeah. So, but given our history, you also asked about the memory and why we should remember.
Why we should remember, yeah.
We as a Bar Association, even though we were created in 1997, it does not remove from us the responsibility of remembering, of also playing our role in making sure that this genocide never happens again in the future. So it's been now pretty much like 10 years since we started also to remember the very people that were representing people in courts, though they were not, I wouldn't call them pretty much lawyers, but in any case, they were doing the work that you're doing. That is similar to ours.
Yes.
So every year in April, we take time to reflect on that. And especially last year, we organized a conference with, we co-organized a conference of Kwibuka 30 to reflect on what justice was all about in the past 30 years and what we have achieved, challenges, and what justice looks like going forward in as far as the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi is concerned.
Yeah.
The reason why people should remember, there is that respect of memory, but also there are lessons that people should learn so that they avoid as much as they can anything heading or even leading people to such atrocities and genocide. Yeah. Of course, people and the world has not learned a lot.
We still have cases in different parts of the world.
We still have issues.
Yeah.
But then we as Rwandans are the ones in better position to do whatever it takes.
Because you have experienced it.
Avoid, in as much as they can, anything that can lead to such ideology that leads to those kind of crimes. Yeah. So in a nutshell, that's how I can respond to your question. But great. It's very important to remember. Yeah. It's very important.
Yeah. I think there was a place where I once read, if you don't remember where you came from, then you might not even make it to where you're going, the destination. Yeah. Let's look at the role that the Bar Association has played in the last 31 years. The country has seen a lot of progress, development in different areas. Let's talk about the progress and developments in the legal and justice space. Yeah. When you look back at the 31 years, where have we come from? Yeah. What are those achievements? Yeah. And what should we look forward to?
All right. Number one, at the creation of the Bar Association, it was in 1997. That means we've been in existence now for 28 years. And the Bar played a very important role in as far as justice delivery is concerned in many areas, because you can imagine a society without such an organization and how the justice was going to function. But most of the challenging part was the fact that at the creation, we only had 37 lawyers in 1997. And the demand was huge in as far as justice is concerned, not only for the criminal part, but also even in the civil cases.
I'm just wondering why we had 37 lawyers, yet the School of Law was created in 1973. So this is more than 20 years.
The problem mainly would be like there were even limited graduates from the university, from the School of Law. They were very limited. Okay. And the truth of the matter is, even part of those 37, you find that there were a lot of people some of the advocates were trained outside Rwanda. Okay. They were just coming in as people that had practiced from mainly Congo, Burundi, and when they came to Rwanda, they had to organize. And some were coming, I think, from Belgium. They had to organize and form the Bar Association.
Okay, based on the experience that they had gotten wherever they were.
Gotten where they were. So now, 37 lawyers, up to now, we've grew in terms of numbers. We are now 1,600. A lot has been done in terms of like delivering justice in all areas, not only to do with the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, but there were also a lot of demand in terms of like civil cases, land-related issues, succession, because a lot of people had died. I mean, a lot has happened. But the major important point is it was very important, and we really appreciate the initiative of the government in restoring and making sure that they build institutions that can really deliver justice under the international standards. That was very important. But also the most critical role and part that is related to the offense of the genocide, the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. At a certain point, it was a very huge excuse from the countries where these fugitives were to send them to Rwanda to be tried, because they were like,
you don't have the infrastructure.
Don't have the infrastructure, but you don't. It's not even guaranteed that the right of defense is going to be guaranteed.
That's what they thought.
That's what they thought. But it was, when all those issues came up while dealing with the issues of justice internationally, the bar was already in place. And we also we contracted with the government of Rwanda through the Ministry of Justice, and we started offering legal representation to the ones that were transferred to Rwanda. So under transfer law, until now, we are still making sure that those that are sent to Rwanda to be tried, they have legal representation until now. But the bar has also partners with the courts like ICTR and the rest to make sure that that right of defense is guaranteed. It's therefore it's a very important milestone that was created, and for now, it's helpful. It's helpful in as far as delivering justice is concerned. Of course, some of the countries have been reluctant to send people to Rwanda, but it's for various reasons. Because most of the time,
and you can't force them?
Under international law, there is a principle under which you either send the fugitive to come and be tried to Rwanda, or you even try
or you try them.
But these cases have their own way of, there's a lot of politics involved. There are those that want to cover them, and it's been 31 years. It's been 31 years. So, but in any case, there are landmark decisions that were made, for instance, by ICTR. There's a lot of work that was done by Gacaca as transition justice here. And, I mean, justice was delivered, in any case.
Talking about Gacaca, did we have any legal representatives? So Gacaca courts, as there were, as you said, and I asked you this even before we came on air a while back, it was not as a legal outfit as such. But then because what they were doing was related to justice, did we have any lawyers taking part?
Okay, let me say this. There was no lawyers involved in that process, but the reality is, even when you want to look at the reality, there were no lawyers, not even sufficient lawyers to be involved in that process. The reality is, when you look at the numbers, Gacaca has tried pretty much like 1,900,000 cases plus beyond. And the truth of the matter is, Gacaca was meant to be a kind of transitional justice that was coming to provide a solution to the problem. If we had to go into classic justice and use the normal way, today we would be still hanging and not finding a solution to the problem, to the issue. If you want to do a simple comparison, for instance, in Gachacha, 1,900,000 plus cases were handled, but you cannot imagine that the ICTR only indicted 93 people.
93?
93. 61, around 61 were convicted, and there were 14 acquittals, something like that. So imagine how long it would take to try 1,900,000 cases if we are going through the normal
process.
Here we are talking about a country. We are talking about a country that needs truth first to understand how all those kind of offenses were committed. We are talking about the people of Rwanda that needs to reconcile and move to the next chapter of their lives. We are talking about communities that are vulnerable, that do not have even food to put on the table. People that needs to develop and then become what this country has become after 31 years. I mean, there are priorities of priorities when it comes to dealing with situations like the ones our country went through. But eventually, I mean, now people are moving on. And that's the very important part. Of course, we have scars that are deep inside everybody in our history, which is even difficult to tell that the country would be what it is today. And people should not really, it's something that we don't take for granted. But then there is a chapter of life that had to happen to move forward. How do we rise from the ashes, from the so but
to thrive? How do we rise from the ashes to thrive?
To thrive, yeah. And at this point in time, what I believe is, of course, people are still dealing with the consequences. There are families that were wiped away. There are, I mean, quite a good number of issues. But then. Also, as a bar association, we also went into that.
You know, I was just going to ask you, so as the bar association, because the association is made up of people from the community, as you've said, those that lost parents, lost relatives, and you have them there. And then they have to sometimes even represent perpetrators.
Yes.
You need a certain degree of healing for you to be able to set aside personal feelings when you're in court. How do you even start to deal with that as the association?
So I believe what this country went through and what people went through require a certain level of emotional maturity to be able to keep moving, to be able to mature and keep working and doing and working properly as a profession. But the truth of the matter is it has happened, and lawyers are representing people across the region, including even the genocide perpetrators. The creation of the ICC in Nyanza has happened at a certain point, part of the reforms of the justice sector, and today cases are being handled that side without any issue, and transferees are being represented by lawyers so that justice can be delivered. That's a certain level of maturity. And you cannot imagine, Jackie, that the government is also investing some money into that. The government, under the working relationship that we have with the Bar Association, the government committed that whoever who does not have means for legal representation, including even the genocide suspect, the government is paying for them. And they've committed for that. And the government is also delivering, not only committing, but also delivering, making sure that the very suspects that are being tried also get representation.
So none of those people can claim that they were persecuted, they have been mistreated or not represented. The government has ensured we don't have such cases.
Not really. Whoever has his or her own means, they can have their own lawyers that they choose and contract with. But also, even the ones that do not have means, the government has put in place systems that allows them to get lawyers that will be paid by the Bar Association under the agreement that we have with the government. When you want to do things differently, you ought to mature. You ought to have a certain level of understanding that goes beyond the pain that this society went through. It's therefore important, if we want to build a peaceful society, justice, truth, reconciliation, such a level of resilience is very important. Those are very important pillars that we should build on. And for now, all I can say is justice is taking its own course. Of course, they are convicted, the ones that are convicted, others were acquitted depending on the circumstances and the details that are being discussed in courts. But all I can say is, for now, for this country there is hope.
Yeah,
there is hope, and justice is taking its own course. Yeah.
We will be taking a break. When we come back, I would love to hear from you. Most of the bar associations across the region and the continent were created earlier than ours, in the 50s, in the 60s. And so when you come in, I would love to hear from you what your relationship is like with the other associations.
Yes.
It's not just the fact that you were created late, but also your experiences are different.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
I also want to know, when it comes to Kwibuka, what lessons have you learned as legal professionals in the last 31 years? If you can outline for us those lessons.
Yeah, sure.
Glad you're with us on the show. We are reflecting on justice, reconciliation, and resilience, a foundation on which our country stands. As you had Moise say, for you to rise from ashes, to reach where the country is, you need a certain degree of maturity, indeed. And so we're looking at the justice space, the legal fraternity. Thank you for joining us. Use the hashtag, #TheRealTalk. Ask questions or suggestions, and we will respond to you. My name is Jackie. My guest is Moïse. He's the president of the Rwanda Bar Association. Welcome back to The Real Talk. We're at Mythos Boutique Hotel in Kiyovu. You should find them on the different social media platforms. If you have an event and you want them to host you, just contact them and they will respond to you. Today we're looking at justice, reconciliation, and resilience as we mark Kwibuka 31. Moise, as I said earlier, I want us to look at the relationship you have with the other bar associations across the region, across the continent, and even beyond the continent. And just looking at the fact that you came in later than most of them, how did that affect you? But your experiences are different from what those guys went through. And also, so share that with us, just paint a picture and share the lessons that you have learned over the last 21 years.
The truth of the matter is that the Bar Association in Rwanda being 28, of course, it's different from the ones that were created in the 50s. And, again, maybe the problem is not about when you were created, but the issue would be the impact that you're making into your society. But the relationship, first of all, is good. We have the East African Law Society, which is a regional body that brings all of us together. And we have done a lot in terms of building those relationships so that we can learn from them, but also they learn from us.
Yeah.
And part of what we have done in as far as Kwibuka also is concerned is we have also gotten to tell them our history.
Yeah.
Tell them our history. If you look at the X and other social media platforms of East African Law Society, when we get to commemorate, we commemorate together. We remember together so that we try in as much as we can to avoid that this can happen again. Though the world has its own setup that is making it somehow difficult that people can even accept the concept of never again.
Yeah.
But the reality is, within the region, we have very good relationship with the very associations, and they are playing their role as well.
Okay.
Because there are cases that would actually even involve lawyers from the region, in which they contributed in one way or the other. But at the level of ELS, at the level of the Pan-African Lawyers Union, be it the International Bar Associations, we relate quite well. And then part of the lessons that we've learned, when you have a history like ours in this country, you don't operate like the same way you would operate when in an environment that never had a crow history like the one we had.
Yeah.
And we took it from there, and then we started working and making sure that the bar becomes not only an organization that deals with justice, but also that can contribute in the welfare of the country by making sure that we bring our contribution in as far as supporting the survivors. So in the past years, we have done quite a lot in terms of like supporting students that were at the university that were unable to afford school fees. We
Studying law.
studying. Some went to law, and the others were studying. I think it was political science and something like that.
Okay.
We have also contributed in terms of Giringa, which is a national program of offering cow,
one cow per family.
One cow per family. We have also contributed in making sure that we support members of Avega Agahozo. It's an organization of widow of the 1994 genocide.
Yes.
We have also made some contribution in terms of like refurbishing houses of the survivors that were not in a good shape. The Bar Association has made some contribution, and we have also offered some kind of support in terms of like getting the chairs. There's a time when in Pinganzima, in Yamata, these widows that are grouped in this home that they've created for the ones that do not even have homes, because they are even those
they're the sole survivors.
Sole survivors that of widow that find themselves like they don't have homes, and they were put together it's in Nyamata. We once visited them, and then also offered that kind of support. We have not all those kind of activities. We do it as part of our corporate social responsibility, because we feel like, you know what, we are a bar association that is in this country, and we ought to do something.
That's right.
In the rebuilding of this country. We cannot only be the kind of lawyers that appear to be in town and doing and making money.
Just taking money from us.
Taking money from the community.
Yeah.
But we should also have that kind of
giving some money to the community.
Giving back and doing something in terms of like making sure that we like continue to build this country.
That's interesting, because majority of us would assume that the only contribution you can make, if there's anything you will do that won't require money, probably your support will be free legal representation. And you could have easily chosen to stop at that. If there's a survivor or there's a perpetrator, you'll give them free legal representation. But you've gone beyond it.
We've actually done that.
That is impressive.
And now we are in conversation with Ibuka to come up with an MOU that is going to actually even emphasize and do it at a larger scale.
Okay.
So that the survivors that do not have means can also have access to the lawyers that can help them run their issues and problems in court.
Okay.
But also in our understanding, in a society that has a history like ours, I mean, that's not enough. We ought to think beyond that. You don't want to protect someone's right that he or she doesn't have a shelter. She doesn't have, like, for instance, that kind of mutuelle de santé.
Yes.
Those are basic things. But when, like, for instance, the bar decides to give something like 3 to 5 million, we are paying for thousands.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that we are doing, and we believe it's
That's good.
making an impact in the society, and we keep doing it as our means.
And so these are
allows.
things you've done in the last 10 years, huh?
Yeah, for
Wow,
sure.
that's impressive. We recently had the third annual judicial conference. It was held in Kigali. The conference that brought together East African practitioners, the East African Court,
Yeah, the East African Court of Justice.
Yes, the East African Court of Justice. I would like you to just say something about that before we continue with our conversation. Kubuka, just the significance of the East African Court of Justice holding that conference here for the third conference here. What were the outcomes?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the courts that is at a regional level, which was created under the same arrangement of the East African community that Rwanda is part of. And part of that, I mean, they keep on touring. Each and every year they do on a rotational basis, and they go into different countries.
Okay.
And they had a session here that was meant to adjudicate some of the cases that they have within, and they do it from here.
Oh.
In Nyamirambo.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
so it's
they
not just
had-
the conference, they also
No, there was a conference,
sessions.
but there was also sessions that happened in Nyamirambo. But also it was also an opportunity that we had the inaugural bar bench committee, as this is a forum where we meet lawyers and the judges to discuss emerging issues pertaining to the legal practice. So in a nutshell, we've had a good conversation with the judges, with the judiciaries from across the region, and lawyers. Many of the lawyers from across the region were here in Kigali. And the most very important part that has to do also with Kwibuka, when people are traveling here, most of the time, we take the opportunity to take them to the memorial. So that they can have an understanding, so that they do not really be people from the region that do not know what has happened to do
in
with
their neighborhood.
In the neighborhood.
Yes.
And that, in a way, it contributes to the fact that people get to understand the reality and get to understand the reason why Rwanda can stand, and trying as much as we can to avoid that a genocide happens anywhere else in the world. When you have gone through such an experience, you're in a better position to know better and then do whatever it takes to avoid such
And to educate others.
And to educate others.
To educate others.
Yes.
There's this popular saying that it's only a fool who waits to learn from their own experience.
Exactly.
So the regional bar associations are lucky to have you there, because then you share your experiences, you do that firsthand. It gives them room to avoid this from happening.
For sure, yes.
in their homes. What does resilience mean to you, and for the legal fraternity? What does it look like?
Looking back at our history, resilience means the possibility and the capability that you create within yourself as a human being or even a country to overcome the challenges that you're faced with. And this allows you to move forward and go beyond and overcome the very challenges. Bringing this conversation back into the context we are in, I mean, I've talked about how the country emerged from the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, but also we are living in a changing world. If you want, like, for instance, to talk about resilience as a generic term, you're also going to talk about, like, how do you live today and that allows you to be independent as a country, as a bar association, to do your own things at your own
time, on your own terms.
And also creating a kind of independence that allows you to avoid even this kind of divisionism that came with colonialism.
And interference.
Today, we're not going to be a country like, for instance, that is going to survive based on the fact that the leadership in the US is changing, and all of a sudden, people that have the US aid is gone. Enabel is no longer working. For me, I don't want to get into diplomacy very much, but we should be countries here in Africa. We have everything that it takes to stand and be on our own. It's good to partner with whoever is coming and wants to help us develop, but it's also equally important that we Africans revisit how we can do our own things. Take charge of our own destiny. If colonialism was not here, if the events of 1959 was not here, if the people that brought the identity cards with a mark of someone being a Tutsi and someone being a Hutu was not here, I don't think we would have experienced what happened in 1994 as a genocide that took almost over 1 million people. But then the way we live and what we do for now determines what may be the future generation is going to be looking like. That's the reason why, as a bar association, we've put in place quite a good number of programs that is contributing to the economy of the country, so that you can be resilient enough, and being independent is in the same line of ideas of creating a resilient organization.
Yeah.
But also that is our, I pray that this becomes a DNA of ours. And when people are busy working for the development of their country, I don't think we can get again involved into these petty things of
that divide us.
But then it takes a lot of energy in terms of like changing mindset of people, because we still have a lot of people that still looks themselves into those kind of divisionism, because it took a long time teaching people to be seeing themselves as if they are different. Yeah. The world has not learnt quite a good lesson in as far as the conversation we are having. Yeah. But it's the role of all of us, as being a lawyer, being people in the government, being people in the private sector, to understand that you can only practice law in an environment where everything is established. So we have a common interest to protect, which is our social fabric that allows the country to grow and the economy to strive. But that's our mentality at the Bar Association for now. And it's the spirit driving us. We believe the history that we've seen in this country is enough. It contains enough lessons to learn from, and then do things differently.
What goes through your mind when you look across the region around us, and there will be instances where you see the government controlling the judiciary, different places. I won't even mention countries, but we have seen them. You have cases, somebody probably will be released by court, and then they will be arrested just outside the courtroom because of some fabricated cases or some other hidden clauses in the law. And then you have scenarios where I'm glad you've mentioned it. As a country that is resilient enough not to allow the kind of interference that divided us in the beginning, but we still see a bit of that in the region. And if you as Rwanda, you're saying, I will not allow you, who was part of the bad history, to now come here and start lecturing me about the Bar Association and how we will run our legal space. But then there's a country in the neighborhood that is welcoming that person, such interference, and this could seep in because of the proximity. If the neighbor's house catches fire, ours is also likely to catch fire. What goes through your mind when you see what's going on around us?
I mean, there is a major part of life that we Africans need to mature, and then have an understanding of who we are. And
you think we don't understand ourselves that well?
If you look at most of our countries, and you look at when we acquired the so-called independence. I put it in inverted commas because for reasons that you know. We wouldn't spend 60 years while still looking at each other in tribalism. It has taken us 60 years. Imagine the level of, like, how many generations that went through it. But also at the same time, we lost, our identity is the one that needs to help us determine who we want to become. The truth of the matter is we can't just be thinking and reasoning in the same way like we used to be in the past generation that was one of our grandfathers. For now, things have changed.
A generation that was taken advantage of.
A generation that was taken advantage
Exploited, manipulated, yeah.
That came with the slavery and so on and so on. We need to mature. We need to grow our mindset. We need to understand that life is not outside in those countries of Western countries where people are running to. Here in Africa, we have everything it takes in terms of resources, in terms of means, in terms of everything that would take us forward. We have it here. But I mean, we are busy playing small games of tribalism that end up creating events like the ones of the genocide against the Tutsi. Instead of taking time and reflect and work hard so that people can make necessary developments in their countries. It's therefore high time that we revisit that way of thinking. It's high time we revisit that way of manipulations that come to us and we don't realize it's happening. The colonialism has changed its forms. It's coming in other ways, in forms of people claiming and complaining about human rights, going through the bar associations of our national countries and trying to divert. You've talked about the influence of the justice, but there's also another angle that comes with that. People coming and complaining about human rights and so on and so on. We, as Africans, we should know and protect human rights in as far as justice is concerned, but in our own way. This way of being lectured and told the way we should behave when it comes to justice and human rights, I mean, sometimes it's completely out of context and it's overtaken by the events. But people are using it as a means that penetrates our societies and then it becomes issues and creates some level of chaos. It's therefore important that we get to know that. There should be, I don't know whether it's going to be called there's a time when there's going to be a wake-up call, but Africans, there's
We've
a
had
level
lots
of understanding that we should have, that we allow us to get to the next level of understanding. But and here I'm thinking the so-called elites of Africa. There is something wrong that goes with most of us.
I keep saying there's a recurring statement.
There's a recurring
the elites are Africa's biggest problem.
They are Africa's biggest problem.
And I attended, it's something that brought together in young entrepreneurs. And I'll never forget this lady, Christelle. She has a water initiative. And she said she had done research. The elites of Africa spend 60% of their earnings outside Africa.
Exactly.
That's a problem.
That's a problem. How are the economies of ours are going to develop?
If we're developing other people's economies.
Developing other economies.
Yes.
When you don't develop your economy the same way it's supposed to be, what happens is there's unemployment that is followed by the chaos of the young people rising against their government. And then there's this circle that happens in each and every country of Africa. I mean, it's only now that we've spent 31 years in Rwanda when people are at peace.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'd still be running.
I mean,
taking cover, hiding.
In the history of Rwanda, in the past, I don't know, from 51, there was a recurrence of every 5 years, 10 years, people are running, the ones that become refugees. And so how are those people going to settle and build the economy and their country?
It can't happen.
It can't happen. It's very difficult. But then it needs that level of education that we keep on educating our future generation to become what they are supposed to become. But our mentality and our way of thinking, our way of acting, our way of working on even helping those very young to grow when they understand where they are going, it's very important. It's very important. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's take a break. Yeah. We will be back in just a bit. If you have any questions, you have any suggestions and comments, please send that through. I have a wonderful guest today. It's not like, let me not lie to you, the legal subject is not a very easy one. And so when I have the opportunity to sit with Moïse, I pay attention because for me, it's a learning moment. And I hope that you too are picking something from this conversation. A lot of what he's sharing with us today cuts across, you know. He could be dwelling a lot on the legal fraternity, but this affects our different professions. What he talks about, a mindset change, resilience and all, that affects every one of us in our different spaces. So I hope that this conversation is meaningful. We will be back in a bit. Welcome back to The Real Talk. The hashtag is The Real Talk. My name is Jackie, and our guest today is Moïse. He is the president of the Rwanda Bar Association. Find Rwanda Bar Association on the different social media platforms. Find Advocate Moïse on the different platforms as well. He's a wonderful man. If you have a question, he will respond to you immediately. He's very active on social media. Right. So reach out if you have any questions that you want him to help out with. A big thank you to Mythos Boutique Hotel for hosting us. Moïse, the Bar Association is doing an amazing job. Yeah. How do we make sure? I want us to talk about sustainability. What are you doing today? What are those strategies that you're applying to make sure that this is not short-lived? And all round, because you can imagine you could have a very good thing going on, but then how do you make sure you never bring in wrong elements that will bring it down?
Thank you very much, Jackie. I think maybe this is a broader question, but the major part is we are grooming and mentoring young ones in the same line of ideas. And our mentorship that we are envisioning and considering, even going through as we are still in leadership, and by the time we won't be there, we are also touching on the fact that people should understand our history, including even the one that we are discussing to do with Kwibuka. On 25th, when we're going to have our annual commemoration day, we considered bringing in those who are still students that have not even joined the bar or even get into legal practice.
They will be part of.
They will be part of the event.
Wow.
We want them to know this history as a baseline. And then on top of that, make them help them become also lawyers that this country deserves.
Okay.
By doing so, you're making sure that you train the next generation of lawyers that is completely different from the ones that we had that ended up getting involved in the genocide. By doing so, you're also ensuring sustainability in terms of leadership. But we are also building something else, that is the accountability part that this country takes to be as a backbone. The accountability part. Being a bar association that is responsible, that understands what the country is all about, and which contributes to even beyond the aspect of it being involved into justice. That does not remove the core business, the core mission of the Bar Association to be involved in justice, but also think outside the box. Think outside the box. Today we are involved in business as a Bar Association.
What do you mean?
We have created a company called the Advocate Investment Company that is doing some business to help the economy of the country grow.
Wow, I should have you back here to talk about that in detail.
And what we have done is really amazing, but we've not achieved everything. Again, we are taking one step at a time.
At least you've started.
But at least we've started. And on top of that, we are also contributing to the economy of the country in other way that is different. But that's a part that also has to do with resilience. With the fact that Rwanda is not only about what it was 31 years ago. Today we think differently. We dive into these things that we are doing differently, so that we can make sure that we sustain even what we are doing without necessarily relying on the other interferences that I was telling you. That's the major part. It's a very important point as we reflect on resilience. So, but that's another story. The next generation that we are mentoring is going to be a different one that thinks differently. That is not the generation that thinks that life is elsewhere in Europe and in the US. It's here. This is our country, and we are the ones that are responsible to do everything that it takes to develop it, and then even the lawyers should have a role into that. Be it justice, be it the socio-economic transformation, because ours is cross-cutting. When you are advising, like for instance, in the companies, so that they can grow, play a role in the development of the economy, and so on. I mean, that's also another area of practice that is equally important. So we've got that kind of thinking that is broader, that allows members of the Bar Association to understand and play their role into the development of this country.
Yeah. My last question as we conclude. What are the attributes of a good lawyer? For someone who's out here thinking of joining the space, or they are studying law and they hear different stories, maybe they're being told, oh, that the profession does not have money, or different stories that they're told. What makes a good lawyer? You said you're grooming lawyers that this country deserves. Who are those lawyers that this country deserves?
The attributes and the lawyers that this country deserves, number one, are the ones that understand our history, and that lays a foundation based on that history to do their work of delivering, of making sure that justice is delivered in their way using ethical standards, but also a lawyer that understands that his or her role is not only about lawyering in court, making the very money that we all want, and stopping it by there. Lawyers are leaders by default, because advising and guiding people into what they do, that means you should have leadership skills.
Yes.
So nowadays, the lawyers that are being trained needs to understand that we are living in a changing world. You're not only going to get the knowledge of the law only, But the law should be applied to the issues that the society has, so that you can make necessary progress. We are living in a world that technology is taking over.
Yes.
Artificial intelligence is here with us. Environmental law needs to be taken care of.
Yes.
The lawyers that understand, like, for instance, these genocide studies, because of our history, they can be exported to go and teach outside, so that the world gets to know our history, but also they earn a living in a way.
Yes.
The opportunities that are out there are for those who are ready. And the lawyers that we are trying to forge for now should be prepared. The train will only take you because it found you on the station.
Yes.
Preparedness, readiness for us, it has to be, we have no much of a choice out of that. So we should be looking into that. And the lawyers we are training, we are really trying to sharpen them in such a way. Of course, there is still a lot of work to be done, so that people can fine-tune the understanding, the mindset, the concept of people thinking like Africans. Because
not working in order to be seen by some visa-selling country.
No.
Yeah.
Visa,
thinking as Africans and for Africa.
Visas, they will always be there. But the main part is we should be grounded and understand that if there are issues, around the world there are issues.
Yeah.
I've been discussing with people here, talking about the issues that we are encountering within our judicial system and so on. They are here, of course. But everywhere in the world, those issues are there. But then you, as a lawyer that is being trained now, that is aiming at becoming, I don't know, the kind of lawyer that is going to help this country, find solutions.
Yes.
Finding solutions to the issues and the problems that we have is what is going to make the difference in legal practice going forward.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you, Moïse.
Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure. For me, it's such a blessing to be able to bring you this conversation, and I do appreciate Moïse for taking time to be here with us, and thank you for your company. I hope that this conversation left you feeling better and knowing much more than you did before we started the show. Looking forward to hearing from you. Use the hashtag #TheRealTalk. My name is Jackie. Moïse was our guest today. Moïse Nkundabarashi, the president of the Rwanda Bar Association. Let's meet on social media. We will respond to all your questions and your comments. God bless you. We'll see you next week.